Hello and welcome to Amipal, the #1 place on the internet for the sweetest Amiga content. This episode is about shoot-em-ups on the Amiga CD32, the last gasp console from Commodore. Obviously, CDs offer greater storage capacity than floppy disks, while also having the ability to give CD audio soundtracks as well. So they do give some advantages to games. However, were these utilised? Let's have a look at some shoot-em-ups. The first game we have is Overkill, a game released in 1992 by Mindscape. It was also released the year after for normal AJ Amigas, like the 1200 and 4000. But this is the CD release for the CD32. Overkill, developed by Vision, was a updated version of Defender, basically. It's got superb graphics, which you can see are very colourful indeed, with sublime smooth scrolling, multi-layered parallax like you haven't really seen in other games. They've chosen every primary colour you can imagine on this. It's fast as well. I mean, you zoom across this landscape and it's difficult to tell really where an enemy's going to appear. I know you've got that map in the corner there, but you glance and all of a sudden you head into the ground and exploding into a million pieces as your pilot runs off to get away from the exploding ship. It's got multiple levels, which you access through a planet wheel, like a solar system, as you work your way towards the star. Most of the early levels are kind of the same colours. It's like any other game in that you kind of have a standard theme, and then as you change stages, you change themes. So you do get levels with like fire and caverns and things. And different enemy types as well. It's also got this cracking soundtrack, really heavy metal, which I haven't really seen on many Amiga games. But Overkill. It's good play. We also have Lunacy bundled on this disc, which was probably the right decision to make because it's a real subpar Project X clone. It's just very uninspired. You've got one life, but a health bar, so it differs from Project X like that. But you do have this kind of status bar where you collect power-ups and then you have to engage the power-up in exactly the same way as Project X. The enemies aren't really challenging. They've got a standard patrol route as they, standard wave as they come in for the attack. And it's really just a case of just kind of sticking yourself in the centre of the screen and just kind of twitching yourself this way and that. You wouldn't pay full price for it. You'd pay full price for Overkill, and Lunacy you'd kind of see as an added bonus, except it isn't really.
Project X was re-released by Team 17 on the CD32 as a double pack in the same way as Overkill and Lunacy, but this time with F17 Challenge, which isn't a shoot-em-up. Project X on the CD32 is basically a straight re-release of the classic Amiga version. There's no extras on it, no AGA improvements, no intro, no CD audio. It's basically straight to CD. It's still a great game. Still got a fantastic soundtrack, lovely graphics, and it's a good game to play. Even though they got all this space, though, they still didn't see fit to actually include the loading music, which is really good. So no idea why they've done that. I've only shown one level here. I never really get much further than this, so you get what you get. There are multiple levels to play through, multiple enemy types. You get different power-ups that you can power up as you destroy enemy waves by selecting them on the bar at the bottom of the screen. But yeah, it's still a good game. Would I say to hunt out and buy it just for the CD32? No, not really. You can play this on anything really, and there are better shoot 'em ups for the system.
Now we have Super Stardust, released in 1995 by Team 17 by the eponymous Bloodhouse. What can be said about Super Stardust? It's first of all, it's an AGA update of the classic Amiga Stardust. AGA, what does that mean? Well, more colours, better scrolling, just a nicer visual game. More colours, better sprites, better graphics overall. It's got a CD soundtrack, so of course we've got some fantastic tunes playing in the background. I think I might actually prefer the original soundtrack from Stardust, but that's not to say that these ones aren't good. They do work well with the game in order to kind of produce that bombastic effect in the background as you blast away at the asteroids. It is, to all intents and purposes, an asteroids clone, but it's done ever so well. You know, you've got different types of asteroids. It starts off with like a silver colour that's your weakest asteroid, and goes up through blues, pinks and gold. Gold being very tough, you actually have to blast away to actually separate them into chunks. Of course, because this is supplied on a CD, they saw fit to include a 3D machine. Now, the most impressive thing about this game are the tunnel sequences. I'm sorry that I've only managed to get to one of them with today's playthrough, but just look at this. It is highly impressive. It zooms by at such a speed, you feel like you're being sucked into this vortex. While asteroids and mines and other things are being thrown at you in order to impede your progress. It's incredibly well done. It utilises the Amiga system in a very unique way. It's not 3D ray traced, it's not 3D graphics, it's superb, it's really impressive. Here we have Banshee, released in 1994 by Core Design. It's a 1942 inspired vertical shoot 'em up, which is set on an alternate dimension Earth, where you have to save it from the evil Styx Empire. Now, Banshee is another shoot 'em up on the CD32 that has just amazing graphics. They're so detailed. The amount of stuff that's going on the screen at any one time is astounding. I mean, every time you play this, you'll notice some other little detail that you haven't seen before, in the enemy soldiers running from a burning lorry to a train engine exploding with steam. Just, there's so much going on that it can be really difficult to tell, really. It's one of these games also that is very tricky as a single player game. It really does benefit from having another CD32 gamepad plugged in so that someone else can play along with you, because it's just, there's so much going on across the screen that you need that extra firepower to take care of it sometimes. There are so many different enemy types in this as well, going from aeroplanes to helicopters, tanks, soldiers, lorries, boats, submarines, and more. They've really managed to stuff this game with such variety. It's incredible. But again, I recommend you play it if only for trying to spot these little details. The last game on my list is Reshoot. This is a very recent game, released in 2016 by AmiWorks. This is completely different from the other games that we've seen so far. Reshoot is basically a never-ending shoot 'em up. where the key premise is that you just get a higher score than last time you played it. The score remains on the on the title screen, so as you play it and die, you go back, and whatever the highest score was is on there. If you didn't quite beat it on the previous play, then it will be the highest one that you've done so far. It's almost like a technical demo, in that you've got what seems to be hundreds of enemies and sprites going across the screen at one time, and particles. In a way, it's almost like a multimedia experience as well, because it's got this real neon visualization to it, with this soundtrack pumping in the background that correlates with the enemy waves. You could almost imagine it being in some kind of like modern art installation as you kind of walk through, and it's just pulsing in the background, you know. A very unique game, and as I said, very different from the other games in this list. It's one really, I think, if you were having like a gaming session with lots of friends, you could kind of have it on in the background, and just people could go over to it and play it, and you know, just see if they can beat that current score. It's impressive. It is impressive. And so there we have it. A plethora of Amiga CD32 Shoot'Em-Ups have been played today. Not all of the ones I wanted to play. For instance, Disposable Hero by Gremlin Graphics. It's a very good game. It's just very pricey for the CD32, and I haven't been able to buy one for a good price yet. So I'm keeping my eye out for that. In terms of the best ones played today, I think I'll put Super Stardust at the top. It's an amazing game. It still plays well today. I mean, basically, it's an upgraded Asteroids, but it's done in such a good way. It looks amazing, sounds amazing, plays well. Those tunnel sequences, they blow your mind. I could tell you how they managed to program that on Amiga hardware, but I think it spoiled the magic a bit for you. I'll just say it utilises the Amiga as it should be. I think second up would probably be Banshee, because it's a true vertical shooter in that classic sense, and it's just incredibly detailed. Every time you play it, you notice something different with it. My only disappointment with that is it doesn't have soundtrack while you're playing the game, and I feel Core Design could have used the CD playback capability of the machine to do that. I mean, that's one of the key advantages of using CDs rather than floppy disks. In a way, you kind of get around the inherent limitations of the Amiga chipset for audio, because I mean, Paula wasn't updated for the CD32. You get around that because you can use the sound channels on Paula for all your sound effects, and music then becomes a secondary thing, because you can just play it from CD. It is, to all intents and purposes, free. So that's slightly disappointing, considering the demo for Banshee had really good soundtrack. I'll see if I can dig it up and put it at the end, but it is really good, and it would have worked amazingly. I really enjoyed Reshoot. It's a different sort of game, really, isn't it? It's a party game, really, but it's impressive. It does look good. It's unique. You know, just put it on in the background and just let people play it. Really, just see who can get the highest score. It's it's a very different game from the others. Overkill. Overkill is a super upgraded Defender, but only really kind of graphically and audio. It doesn't really add much more to the mix. It does look really, really good, and it plays well, which just goes to show how well Defender is as a game concept to begin with. Yeah, it's got a really good soundtrack too. I really enjoy that one. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you've got any comments about Shoot'Em-Ups or the CD32 or the Amiga in general, then please put them in the usual place down there, and I'll try and answer them. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Oh, and I want to play Seek and Destroy as well, but for some reason the fact that you needed a second pad or mouse plugged into the second port so that you could click through the title screen didn't seem to factor into playtesting. So I kind of flailed around with the joypad for a good 5-10 minutes, pressing every button and combination I could think of, but was unable to get into the main game. So if I get some footage of that in the future, we'll do another roundup. But come on guys, playtesting. Thanks.